Today's another day to find you shying away. I'll be coming for you, love, okay? Take on me. Take me on. I'll be gone.
Hi, my name is Eduardo Romero,
My name is Chris Avila.
and this is a special episode where we're going to talk about The Last of Us game series. This episode, we're going to give our impressions of The Last of Us 2 without spoilers. We're going to go ahead and talk about The Last of Us full spoilers, so if you haven't played the game, don't listen to it. But other than that, we are part of the Pop Counterculture Media family. We have Mandatory Cinema, where we discuss films, arts and craft beer, where we interview artists about their work, and we also have Just Talking Shit with Ed and Angie, where we just talk shit. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into the topic at hand. Chris,
Ed.
so The Last of Us came out in 2013.
I believe so.
Yeah,
2013.
2013. How do you remember the experience of it coming out and your first time playing it?
So I think the very first thing, I mean, anyone who likes or has a more than a passing interest in The Last of Us is the very first thing that they remember is that teaser trailer of the ant. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing. It was like, why would a video game company ever do something like that? But then The Last of Us came out, and there was that tease in Uncharted 3. At the very beginning in the bar fight, there's the newspaper.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that started everything. But yeah, no, I just really liked the gameplay of it all. I like how it looked. I liked the idea of an AI partner who actually knows what she's doing and helps you out in the gameplay. Which, then the game came out and it wasn't that great. But I mean, it's still fine. She stayed out of the way.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, I remember when the game came out, there was this big question in the air because Naughty Dog, develops these games. Before The Last of Us, you had Uncharted,
Jack and
Daxter, all their Crash Bandicoot was them too, right? Yeah, they had all those games. So they were kind of known for making these lighthearted, silly kind of, games. And so I remember when The Last of Us originally started to get the hype train going, a lot of the conversation was is Naughty Dog really up for the challenge of telling a darker story? Is it going to be some sort of weird tonal thing?
Yeah, I remember reading something, not exactly that, but I remember reading their response to it being like, well, yeah, we started off with Crash Bandicoot, which is this like silly, again, like lighthearted adventure with this animal type character,
Wacky 90s sitcom character.
Man, I would love to see like a 90s
Crash Bandicoot cartoon.
Exactly. Right? I'd love it. But then they grew up into like Jack and Dexter. He's a little bit more humanoid. There's still the wackiness and all of it. And he's not they're not exactly humans. They're like elves or something like that. Yeah, and then they were like, and with Uncharted, we felt like we had matured. We had found that middle ground of like really like human serious stories, but with still the lightheartedness, because Drake can't fucking ever miss an opportunity to make a wisecrack or anything.
Very Marvel.
Very Marvel. Very, very Marvel. Also, I think a little bit Nathan Fillion.
Oh yeah.
Because like if you've seen Firefly, his character just unless he's pushed to the absolute brink of like, I'm gonna kill this person, always makes a crack.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and then with The Last of Us, they were like, we finally feel like we are ready to take more mature stories, and they nailed it.
Yeah,
so
from what I understand of the production history of The Last of Us, it started off as a very small project, but then as it kind of grew on, it sort of became this bigger and bigger thing. I want to talk about Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley, the directors of this game.
Full disclosure, I don't know much about like the behind the scenes stuff. I've heard some things, but I don't know cold hard facts. So
over the years, I've only played The Last of Us once, but I have such a vivid memory the first time playing it. In fact, without getting too far ahead, one of the things that surprised me playing it again for this podcast was how much I remembered. Like,
Right.
even after just playing it once after all these years, the first game really has a big impact. And I think that's really surprising because this is their first project, not only as collaborators but as directors as well. Before this, Bruce Straley was a game director, but this was Neil Druckmann's first attempt at directing a game. And he actually developed the story when he was in college for a comic book. The same basic idea. Guy loses his daughter, takes on a surrogate daughter, and then the same basic thing.
Yeah, and the surrogate daughter has lost her parent.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I am personally fascinated by production stories. Like I love hearing the stories of how movies, albums, games got made. And one of the impressions that I got hearing Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann talk is that they had a very open, very collaborative, and like hostile but in a productive kind of way relationship in sort of getting this down. And I think there's something about that sort of environment where it's like people who are just freshly given all this new responsibility, these new skills they have to develop, and The Last of Us is essentially lightning in a bottle. It was the right combination of people working on the right project with the right intentions.
It was a whole new IP, so people were excited.
An IP thing is a big thing to take on. It's really expensive. When playing through The Last of Us, both times that I played it, it just felt like such a monument. A lot of that, I think, does come from like being hungry, young directors, basically, and being like, I gotta fucking nail this. I gotta get this down. And then they knocked it out of the park, like you said.
100%. Like it's still talked about today. Like all the story, the gameplay, everything like that. Maybe not the multiplayer, but I played recently the new God of War. And in the middle of it, for some reason, I just thought I was like, this is The Last of Us. Because I mean, it's the camera angle, the fact that you're taking on a kid that you initially, the main character initially doesn't care about, but then grows attached to, grows to love, grows closer to. So I had that weird this wouldn't be a thing. God of War was originally, how many games were there in the God of War series before?
There was 3 main ones, and then God of War Ascension, which was a spinoff.
And
I played the first 3. I didn't fuck around with Ascension.
I only ever played 2 and 3, and I played like the prologue of Ascension. Couldn't handle it anymore. But they were just all masters. It was all the same kind of attacks. Like there was nothing new except for maybe the weapons in the different games. But it was almost all the same. And then this new one comes out. It's like, this is completely different.
The Last of Us is one of those games, kind of like Uncharted, also, that I think sort of colored, that has a shade over all the other Sony exclusives and a lot of other games that came after too. Don't get me wrong, The Last of Us wasn't the first game to have a companion character like Ellie.
Oh yeah, no, not by a long shot.
Resident Evil 4, at least in my head, is the first game that did that. But Ashley was annoying. Leon! Help! Yeah, exactly. Ashley was this useless, annoying paperweight, essentially. Every genre has watershed moments. Like you have things that come out that are just like this singular form of art that everything kind of like folds around after, This is the first game that really nailed storytelling in video games.
Like almost every other game before it, I think story was kind of second. They focused more on the adventure bit of it, whereas like very much, especially in the DLC for Left Behind, the first Last of Us game, gameplay and story are kind of symbiotic. They work together, because like in I don't know if you've played it, the DLC. I mean, the entire time where you're Ellie with Riley in the mall, there's no collectibles, there's no pickups, there's no nothing. It's just you're just walking. That whole thing could have been cutscene, but they made it to where you experience it. And then like when she gives you the joke book, you can press triangle to the point where they're just like, okay, we give up. Like we're good for now.
Right.
And that just, I think we're gonna get a bit more into this. Just kind of like putting the toes in the water. But I think it was the first game that really blended gameplay with story, and they both accentuated the other.
It doesn't do anything other games don't do. There's nothing inherently original about it.
There's nothing like groundbreaking, like, oh, we've never seen this before, like Batman Arkham Asylum. Like that whole combat system, I don't think existed before that game.
No, not combat as like a rhythm game. No.
Yeah. Oh my god, I never thought of it as a rhythm game before.
Oh no,
it makes so much sense.
It totally is. Yeah.
Oh shit. Wow.
Put out some death grips, bro. Have some fun.
Oh shit.
like I said, back to your very, very first time experiencing this game,
Mm-hmm.
experiencing this story. Give me a summation of your emotional journey playing through it the first time.
Well, I think if you have a heart, you cry when Joel first loses his daughter, just because seeing him that broken. Joel is a single father.
Mm-hmm.
He is struggling to get by, and he's not struggling, but like he's when we first meet him, he's having a spat with his brother on the phone about something with a contractor.
Yeah, some sort of contracting thing.
Yeah, so he's I don't know what it is about Neil Druckmann, but even when you're playing, full disclosure, by the way, for the ending of Uncharted 4, Drake is alive, he has a kid, and you play as the kid for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but they really like big houses. They really like their main characters having big ass houses.
maybe everybody on the team just grew up really upper middle class or something, you know?
Maybe.
Well, okay. Funny you say that because they're okay. Yeah, the houses are big. And they're meticulously art designed to the point of like
it's their fantasy house.
Yeah, it's like okay, nobody has the time to be this meticulous with their house.
Right.
Okay. If you notice in The Last of Us Part 2 also. Notice how fucking wide the doors are.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up right now.
Yeah.
With the house design, they're wide, they're tall, they're like Max Payne doors.
Yeah, and it's funny because like they're wide to they're wide to facilitate having a bunch of enemies rush through there at some point when the climax comes.
Yeah,
through.
no, that makes sense.
I don't know. It's just funny, like to see. You're right. The houses are kind of quirky in that sense. Yeah, but yeah. So you're going through the house. In the opening of the game.
And you're getting attached very quickly to this little girl because she's concerned about her dad. There's an explosion going on downtown, and that entire sequence until the car crash, you're playing as her, so you're getting attached to her, and you're like, oh, Joel's kind of like, he's my dad, he's my savior. He's gonna get us through this. And then you switch to Joel. From that point, it's just frantic. Like, you can't interact with the human NPCs, but there are the infected NPCs where if you just stand there, they will kill you. But it's just this really frantic, really urgent, like you gotta move moment. So from there, it's like, okay, I gotta take care of my kid, and then she gets shot. You get shot at, and then she takes a bullet for you, unfortunately. So from there, it's just that was a heartbreaking moment. Like, I didn't expect to play the bit of the outbreak, like the initial outbreak, and then I also didn't expect to like feel the loss of a child, as I thought I was just going to be killing zombies.
I feel you. You know, at the risk of sounding a little bit cold-blooded here, there's a podcast I really like called the Slash Filmcast, and there's a running joke in it where like anytime somebody, one of the hosts or co-hosts like has a kid, the first thing they say is like, "And I finally understand Interstellar." You know, then the joke is, you know, when Interstellar came out, only one of the hosts had a child, and the other two didn't. And the guy who had a kid was a lot more favorable of Interstellar because of the central relationship there. When I first played the game, I didn't have any nieces or any nephews or nothing like that. And don't get me wrong, like I played it and like I was like, this is I was moved by it clearly.
Yeah.
But I played it a few months after it came out, so I heard everybody kind of hype it up and talk about the first major thing. I didn't know what it was, but when I watched it, maybe it was because of the hype. That first time, I was like, oh, I mean, that was pretty sad, but you know.
Yeah, it's like, it's not the end of the world or anything.
Well, I mean, it is.
Despite the fact that the end of the world is going on in the background.
Let me okay, I'm not saying I don't think it was that bad what happened to him.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, I don't think it was as well captured, you know, as everybody made it out to be the first time. This time, the second time that I played it, now that I do have a bunch of nieces and nephews that I love to death, yeah, bro, because if you watch the exact camera movement, it's interesting because you see Joel, you see Tumble, you see Tommy shoot him for a minute there. Like the camera stays with him laying on the ground, and then he's like, "Oh shit, Sarah," and then the camera actually dollies with him as he crawls to her, and it's like a very brief little thing, but like just you're with it right there, and then of course the infamous Sarah scene, the emotion on the face. The body language, God, man, you know, you never want to think what would happen if you were ever in that actual situation. The opening of the game.
Of the first one or the second one?
Of the first game.
Okay, yeah.
Let's go back to when it first came out, right? There was all this confusion because this other game, Detroit Beyond Two Souls, came out.
That's just Beyond Two Souls. Detroit is the fourth game made by
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, the same
yeah.
the same year that The Last of Us came out, there was Detroit
what you're
Beyond
getting
Two
at.
Souls, which had Ellen Page in it,
Yeah.
and then a few months later, this game comes out, which Neil Druckmann did admit that he based.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But this was before he knew
about Beyond
about
Two
Beyond
Souls.
Two Souls,
Yeah.
or even before she got involved.
Yeah.
And by the time all that came out, it was just way too late to change anything.
Mhm.
One of the things that was part of the conversation going into the game was, oh, she looks like Ellen Page. It's like they're ripping off Ellen Page and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
And she had her whole bit of like, I guess I should be flattered, but I'm in this other game. Like I'm actually in this game.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that being a whole
Yeah.
fucking thing. That
Mm-hmm.
clearly, I don't think they intended that to
Which-
happen, but I think it totally worked in favor of the game. It's interesting when you go into a game and the first name that you think of when you hear it is Ellen Page, Ellen Page, Ellen Page,
Mhm,
and then you
mhm.
see Sarah, who looks
Right.
nothing like Ellie, who does look like Ellen Page. It has this unintended sense of dread. I mean,
Mhm.
I think it would have been there a little bit because Ellie was in all the promotional material. She's on the game cover.
Mhm.
So she is the female protagonist or the female character you expect to be a part of the story. You don't know anything about Sarah.
Yeah, not a thing.
Not a thing. There was this weird tension because I knew like this isn't who I'm gonna be playing. I've seen the gameplay footage,
Mm-hmm.
and so like I knew something bad was gonna happen from the outset. I mean, so the game quickly moves on to its first act, which is meandering, which the second game also has. A very
Yeah.
meandering opening, very meandering.
Very much so.
Very meandering opening.
I mean, yeah, it's the tutorial, but they can move it along so much faster. That,
Oh,
that
yeah.
is an issue.
It's very Red Dead 2 sometimes. Yeah, definitely. But so then you go into the first act, which picks up 20 years later. Joel is settled into survival life in a military occupied place with his partner Tess. They go on a very sort of kind of like a side quest. So it almost feels like a
Pretty
side
much,
quest.
yeah.
Like, oh, the fucking this guy robbed.
He has our guns, and he's gonna trade them to someone else. What are two people gonna do with a cache full of guns?
Yeah.
But that's besides the point.
It's purposefully meandering because like you are supposed to think that, like, I mean, it's you understand why they want their guns back, probably economically, but you are supposed to sort of think like, but look, this is sort of sad
Mm-hmm.
how it all played out for you, Joel. Like you lost
Yeah.
your daughter. This is how you turned out. You're this surviving piece of shit who was willing to kill innocent people.
Yeah, wanted to be a singer.
Yeah,
and
wanted to be
now
a
he has
singer.
he has to fucking kill a bunch of people.
Yeah,
just to
exactly.
live.
He just wants to
Yeah.
play guitar, man.
He just wants to sit back and pick at a six string. man.
Yeah. Ultimately, the inciting incident happens where you finally reach Robert. He takes you to the guns where Tess is there, and then you are put on the mission for the rest of the game.
Mhm.
Get Ellie to the Firefly Hospital.
Mhm.
Very, very simple thing. Very simple thing in the second game as well. Very simple revenge story.
Yeah.
This game is overall, at its core, the story of Joel and Ellie
Mm-hmm.
becoming surrogate father-daughter figures to each other.
Absolutely.
And so the game starts off. You got to have an arc. They do not get along.
They do not like each other
No,
at the beginning.
no.
Joel is not a very likable character at the beginning of the game.
He's not a likable character.
Up until like the second half of the game.
It's funny you mentioned. I was just gonna say this. I was surprised playing this game how long it took for me to like Joel,
yeah.
and then how quickly I didn't like him again.
Right.
Considering, because to me, we're going full spoilers on this.
Mhm.
To me, Joel is still like, by the time we get to the university level, he's kind of warmed up to her a little bit. But there
yeah.
is still some distance there. The only time that distance closes is after he saves her from David.
I think that started actually when he was during the university bit. He falls and he's impaled.
Yeah.
And she helps him get to safety, and she takes care of him.
Yeah, definitely.
That's when he's like, oh fuck, like there is something for us here.
That's
a relationship building.
Yeah, that's the key. That's definitely the key turning point to the entire thematic and character and plot sort of thing. It all really does hinge on that moment, like you said. After that moment, we play as Ellie. Joel is asleep. We play as Ellie for a good long time,
Mm-hmm.
and then after we play as Joel, it's two very brief sequences of combat,
Mm-hmm.
and it isn't until then that's when you start to like Joel.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
then
because he's stepping up more.
He's stepping up.
He's more open up.
Yeah. So then,
Which, by the way, playing again for the 6th time during the whole Ellie moment, where like you are desperate, you have very little resources. That's very indicative for The Last of Us 2, how that the entire gameplay for Ellie during that bit.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So you have the whole game, and then you have this sequence where Joel finally goes after her. That's when he becomes likable to me. That's when I'm fully on Joel's side. Let's go get Ellie. Then he gets Ellie, and then we go to the final section of the game.
The spring summer.
Yeah,
spring season. The spring summer.
Yes,
Fuck.
the spring season. Yeah, you have like that section. It's a very long non-combat sequence, and then you have that sequence in the tunnels, and then you have the big sequence where Joel has to save Ellie from drowning.
The big reveals, you finally get her to the Fireflies, and the Fireflies are like, "Hey, we can make a cure off her brain," and he's like, "That's gonna kill her," and they're like,
"It's a cure."
Yeah, but the world though.
Yeah.
So
and it's funny because think about it. That's when he stops being likable.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
So really, like, if you think about it, like, he's only likable for this very brief moment.
Short moment.
You know?
And the same thing in Uncharted 2. Well, not Uncharted 2. In The Last of Us Part 2.
Yes.
We'll get more to that into the spoilers, but there are moments where, like, he is likable. And then there are moments where you realize he's still kind of a selfish dick.
I've been playing through The Last of Us. Yesterday, I took a break to finish the first game for the podcast. I actually paused the second game right after the guitar strings.
Oh,
sequence.
the flashback?
Yeah, the flashback.
Yeah.
You know? And dude, like, the second game I think is a lot wonkier than the first game.
Yeah.
But that little mission is as good as the first game was.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just funny because what that sequence is about, and then going back to play through what that is referring to, it gave me an extra like shade of like complicated feelings towards Joel.
Have you gotten to the flashback sequence?
No.
Oh,
there's
you haven't found yet, have you?
I haven't found.
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop talking.
Okay, yeah. Fuck, dude, I want to see that so bad now. Okay,
I don't think you're too far behind.
No. From what I understand, like a couple of combat sequences away from finishing the second day. So.
Yeah. I think it's a good summation of The Last of Us to be like, The Last of Us is a collection of short stories. The first one, anyways, is a collection of short stories strung together by the thread that Joel and Ellie have a mission. Yeah. And they're trekking across America. I've really been wanting to talk about Henry and Sam.
Yes, we do talk about that.
Yeah. I would say we could talk about Bill, but like he's kind of the antithesis to the point.
I think okay. Let's talk about Bill a little bit before we get to Henry and Sam, because like every
he is the first like major he's the first major character you meet outside of the QZ.
Well, yeah, exactly. And every character that Joel and Ellie meet along the way sort of shade our understanding of the world, and also shade our understanding of Ellie and Joel. And let's start with Bill. Because you're right.
It's very, very indicative each grouping that you meet of where their relationship is at, I think.
Exactly, because we start off with Bill, and Bill's whole thing is he can't get attached. Getting attached to people is what's going to end up getting you killed in the end, is caring about people. And then by the end of that chapter, we see that Bill, in his particular world, was right. He had a partner. He was an asshole to him. In order to keep him alive, he was an asshole, but he pushed so hard that he ended up pushing his partner away. Yeah. And drove him to suicide. And what I really loved is that you find that letter that he wrote, his suicide letter, where he calls Bill a piece of shit, basically. And then Joel lies to him, doesn't tell him, he doesn't tell him about the letter. He lets Bill have that sort of
that area of
because
questioning or mystique.
Because I mean, he needs it too. Joel needs that.
So here's the thing. Every time I've played the game, I have always given him the letter.
Oh, I didn't know you had that choice.
Yeah, if you walk up to him like in the garage when you guys are out to the truck, if you press triangle, Joel gives him the letter.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does it play out when he gives him the letter?
He reads the letter and he just like he sniffles a bit because having connections, having friends, having relationships, it does cost you something.
Oh yeah,
especially in this world.
Yeah.
or in the world of The Last of Us. I
Well,
mean.
yeah, yeah. So then the next people we meet is after Joel and Ellie make it out of Billstown. We make it to Pittsburgh, where they're assaulted by a bunch
Yeah,
of.
see, I totally forgot they were in Pittsburgh.
They
I
go
thought they were legit down the street.
It's because the Pittsburgh sequence is sort of like forgettable. Even like the second time
Yeah.
playing through it.
I mean, the bit where like you crash, you have to crash into the store, and then you're immediately shoved. Your face is immediately shoved almost into glass, and then you reverse that whole thing. That bit I remember. It's from that stretch to playing. To meeting Henry and Sam.
Yeah, well,
except for the tank.
The Last of Us still has a lot of Uncharted DNA.
Yeah.
In it, I think it's started to fall away a little bit. It's starting to become its own thing now.
Mm-hmm.
That whole sequence with Pittsburgh, it's just combat and chase.
Mm-hmm.
It's Uncharted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun. It's engaging,
true.
but nothing really happens. It's not until you meet Sam and Henry, which is
Who save you from the tank?
Save you from the tank, and they're brothers.
Yeah.
So what did you want to talk about with Sam and Henry?
I just wanted to talk about like it's very reflective of I think Joel and Ellie's relationship at that point in time, because they're kind of the opposite, where Henry and Sam can be jovial most of the time, and they do obviously love each other because they're brothers, they've known each other for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
There are moments where Henry is the older one, right?
Yeah.
There are moments where he has to get tough with Sam because like Sam, he's a kid, he finds a toy robot, which very nice touch that's still in Ellie's room.
Yeah.
In Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I saw that.
I loved it. I was like, oh my god, it's a robot.
Like a Naughty Dog is good at having little things like that.
Little touches like that.
Like the first shooting sequence in Uncharted 4 with all the artifacts running around his house.
Yeah, where you're in the attic, and then all these different journals, all these different belt buckles throughout the game.
Yeah.
I love that.
Naughty Dog knocks it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Druckmann, I know you're listening. Keep it up, buddy.
Keep it up, man. you are a great writer.
You got a bright future ahead of you, kid.
Yeah, but yeah, like I felt like it was very reflective because again, like jovial most of the time, very few times where he has to get stern with them.
Right.
And then you got Joel and Ellie mirroring them, where Joel and Ellie still kind of don't like each other. They care a little bit, but they're not there. They're not nowhere near that just yet. Most of the time he's stern with her, but there are moments where he's a little bit jovial, but it's not until after where he starts warming up where you like he can give her a high five.
And you can totally ditch her too.
Yeah.
And I almost did.
I never do it. I can't.
No?
I can't leave her hanging.
Oh no, yeah. No, I almost did it this time and I was like, holy shit. And I'm trying to wrap back. Luckily I caught it in time. The whole game is moving Ellie and Joel towards being family.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because after that, then you meet Joel's actual brother, Tom.
Yeah. I think there's like playing a little bit further into The Last of Us Part 2 and knowing where they kind of end up. Family's like a wavelength. There are points where like you're at the same level. There are points where you're very opposite. There are points where you're completely separate.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think The Last of Us, both parts 1 and 2, are very good at exploring that wavelength.
Yeah.
Because you see all different aspects of it. You see where one relationship, like the different ways one singular relationship can go.
Yeah.
Especially with like playing the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2, knowing and seeing what happens there, and then the whole idea of doing things that you normally wouldn't do because it's for someone that you love.
Yeah.
I immediately thought back to Henry and Sam, even though I haven't played that part for years now. It's after the big neighborhood infected sequence where you have the sniper rifle.
Oh yeah.
And you're attacked by that horde. It's that cutscene where all four of them are relaxed. They're having a good time. Mm-hmm. And Sam's freaking out. Ellie goes to console him, but he's bitten. Yeah. And he doesn't show that to anybody. And then the next day he turns. Mm-hmm. I had a really quick theory at one point where I thought he had been bitten a couple days ago, and Henry knew about it all along. Because I remembered it wrong. I was incorrect when they first found out Ellie was infected. Yeah, I thought I remembered Tess saying it takes 2 days for everyone to turn. Yeah, where I heard it incorrectly. It's within 2 days. Yeah. So I thought Sam was bitten for a bit. Henry knew about it, and they were just like pushing it. It's like out of that love, they were pushing it. Right. Because immediately the next day he turns. I forgot who kills him. Was it? No, it was Henry. It was Henry? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then he immediately turns the gun on Joel, blames him for everything, and then kills himself. Right. Yeah. It's like, Jesus, out of like the love you had for your brother, now that he's gone, there's nothing left for Henry at that point, so he offs himself. It sort of plays into the sort of themes of the whole series, though. Yeah. Is that once you do take family away or someone you love away, there is nothing left but hatred. Exactly. And anger. almost like that's incredibly indicative and the entire foreshadow for the entire second game.
But it's interesting because it is such a brief moment,
Mhm.
but it's the entire, like you said, series
Yeah.
put together in like one very brief moment. Henry, who throughout the entire game, or at least throughout the interactions that we have with him, we kind of see that he's more lighthearted than Joel. He's more forgiving than Joel.
He's also way younger.
Yeah, he's definitely way younger.
Way younger.
Sure.
He's like early mid-20s.
Yeah.
I think,
No doubt.
Yeah.
But you know, he's not Joel. He's
not
the angry fucking guy. So when he does kill Henry and then points it at Joel, you kind of, the game is saying we all have this in us.
Mm-hmm.
We all have Joel's capacity for cruelty, for hatred. It's all within us, and all it takes for that to happen is for an apocalypse.
Yeah, no,
You know?
absolutely.
Which
I think once if an apocalypse ever hits, like people are gonna.
We're there.
Yeah, we there. I'm not gonna lie.
We're just podcasting through it.
Yeah.
Once you take all that away, there is nothing but anger. As the second game shows, it's possible for people to just be entirely consumed by anger their whole life.
Rage, hatred.
And Henry, I think, saw himself pointed at Joel, saw himself becoming Joel, and decided, I'm not going to be that.
Yeah.
If the world can change my brother into a monster, I'm not going to let the world change me into a monster.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not going to be an infected, I don't want to be fucking Joel.
Yeah. Because,
You know?
I mean, I think you touched on it in a Facebook post or something where the humans are definitely the more terrifying threat. Yeah. Especially, have you played the Scars? Have you?
No, I'm just about to encounter them. That's where I'm at. Like, that's why I stopped playing. Like, I looked up online.
I've died, I want to say, a total of like maybe 10 times.
Okay.
At least 6 of them were against the Scars.
Fuck, for real?
Yeah.
Yeesh.
And 2 of them were accidents.
Really?
Yeah. Well, 2 of them aside from the Scars. They're tough, man. They're tough.
Good, because I'm getting kind of tired of fucking Abby's boys.
Yeah. They're a little simple. They're a little bit challenging, but they are very simple.
Yeah.
Like I can.
They wouldn't be shit without their dogs.
Yeah, legit. I can very confidently stealth kill them all, especially even when I'm using my pistol and I've not. I've shot off the suppressor. I don't have time to make another one.
Mm-hmm.
I can very confidently get a headshot off someone and hide.
Yeah.
And they don't. They're dumb.
Yeah.
It's the Scars I'm terrified of because they can sneak up on you. They don't use guns. They use like bows and axes and melee weapons.
Yeah. I'm both terrified and excited to meet them.
No, it's definitely a rush.
Yeah.
I want to say that's the crux. That's probably the most well written sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like for the themes, it's a very blink and you'll miss it kind of a thing.
Yeah, like I said, it's a very small moment, but there's so many layers of things going on there.
Absolutely.
Those sort of things only happen in a collaborative atmosphere where everybody is focused on sort of telling the same story and know what they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the second game, Neil Druckmann is the only director. And
no, he has a co-writer.
He has a co-writer.
I can't remember her name, but
yeah, he has a co-writer, but he's directing this one on his own.
Yeah,
I can kind of see a director going a little mad in The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah,
I mean, comparing this is, I'm not saying Neil Druckmann is Francis Ford Coppola, you know, but if The Last of Us Part 1 is the Godfather in the sense that it's this perfectly realized artistic fucking monument, you know, to what the film genre, the film medium can do. The same thing as like this is what gaming medium can do. This is how stories can be more powerful with games. If that's it, then part 2 is Apocalypse Now, which I mean I love Apocalypse Now, but I love it because I can feel Francis Ford Coppola losing his mind himself in his direction as the movie goes on, and I feel like with The Last of Us Part 2, you're totally seeing a director who is just kind of indulging himself in all his worst impulses.
Oh yeah,
and maybe there's not enough people keeping his vision in check and reeling it in because it's sprawling. I
agree with you that he may have lost his mind a little bit because especially dealing with the themes, like how heavy they are, how brutal everything can be, like. Shoot, can we talk about gameplay a little bit for Last of Us 2?
We can talk about gameplay a little bit.
If you find a certain training manual, you get this skill tree for like stealth kills.
Yeah.
And the very last upgrade you get is just the stealth kill is quick and
Yeah.
you're hardly noticeable.
Yeah.
You're hardly noticeable if you do the stealth kill correctly.
Yeah, but it helps you feel a little more secure.
Yeah, because if you get this last the upgrade in the
I got it the other.
Oh yeah, no. Oh dude, I did one. I was like, oh, that's new. That's different. I'm like, that's the upgrade because she legit just slashes the throat, stabs in the center. Yeah, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, dealing with stuff like that is like how heavy it all is and how taxing it had to be on the whole crew. Because like, yeah, he's the director, he's all that, but he's in charge of all these people.
Yeah, everybody else has to perform those tasks.
Exactly. Yeah, and like, he's dealing with people like bringing their concerns to him, and then making sure everyone's happy or making sure everyone's good enough, mentally and emotionally speaking, to finish the game. I think that all comes together in the card that you find.
Okay, which card?
The trading card, Dr. Uckman.
Oh.
Which, by the way, completely missed it. This is not very spoilery, I don't think.
It's not a spoiler.
Yeah. The collectible cards, I believe, replace the Firefly
the
tags
Firefly
because
pendants,
because story reasons. But there's the card of Dr. Uckman. It fleshes out this whole like universe of superheroes and villains. Yes, it's a little bit self-indulgent of he gives himself 100% intelligence.
Right.
But at the same time, he calls himself a villain.
Yes.
In the card.
Just before we started recording this.
Yeah.
I posted something about Last of Us. One of my friends, he refuses to play it, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Because
I think I read a little bit
because of some of the stuff that's come out about the game. And one of the things that he said was, Neil Druckmann, he fairly earned it. You know, he has a reputation for working the shit. You don't
pushing human limits.
Yeah, and hey, you
as
know
the
what?
card says.
No, bro. Honestly, like I believe it because in the film industry, Naughty Dog started snatching up a lot of animators.
Really?
From movie studios.
Really?
And it was only because, so I swear to God, I'm not joking. Naughty Dog went through all the game animators.
Really?
That Los Angeles had.
Oh shit.
They all went through it and they all got sick of it and they all quit.
I heard that there was a bit of a burnout. There was a high burnout rate.
From what I understand, it was ridiculous. The majority of the people who worked on this game to completion, this is like their first, second, or third game.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, because they couldn't retain experienced people.
Yeah.
And a former producer for Naughty Dog who left in the middle of the production said, yeah, if we just planned this better, we could have released this game like in 2018.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, they said like a lot of the assets that are in place now have been out in place for years. It's just Neil moving all the pieces around to fit his vision that have really, slowed things down. Which I mean, look, I don't know how to make video games. Maybe that is maybe that is exactly what
I only play
the perfect thing to do. And I will say this, that it's only recently that people have turned against companies for treating their employees like shit.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for it either way, but at least when Neil started doing it, like what he was doing was considered industry standard practices.
Yeah. I think the same thing happened on Uncharted 4, where a lot of people left the Naughty Dog team.
Yes.
And it got to the point where they took like the receptionist, I think.
Really?
And yeah, if this is correct, if this is a correct story, they interviewed her and she was like, yeah, I'm learning how to code and everything. Like she had no experience whatsoever, and they were like, we need people. We just come in, learn what you need, make the game, help make the game. It's a very tense atmosphere. Yeah. That I personally, I don't think I'd want to be a part of, but
Rockstar and Naughty Dog definitely push people. But you know what, man? Like I think it's funny because I look at I'm a big movie guy, as you know. I know the history of movies, and I think the video game industry is just like the movie industry, but like moving way faster.
Oh yeah,
between cycles.
Oh yeah,
because
how many years did it take for them to get away from the silent film era?
Oh, dude, yeah, the silent film era was a de facto for like the first 20, 30 years of film. So okay. Sort of step back a little bit. Just like in cinema, just like in video games, before The Last of Us, there have been plenty of great works in the medium. Just like before Citizen Kane, there were some good, movies, great stuff made before that. But Citizen Kane is Citizen Kane for a reason.
Yeah.
It's
heralded as one of the greats for a reason.
Well, it's the first film, I think, that was ever made. I think Citizen Kane is important because it broke so much ground into how filmmaking works. Citizen Kane took film as a medium and then turned it into an art form through just Orson Welles taking these bold directorial choices. If you watch everything that came before Citizen Kane, then Citizen Kane.
A lot
boom.
a lot of Buster Keaton movies, which granted I've only seen one.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called. But yeah, no, there were a lot of movies where it's like this is fun.
Yeah, they're just entertaining.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Cool. Like people back then, they just wanted to go and be entertained and distracted for whatever.
Exactly. And then Citizen Kane came out.
And then
It's
Citizen Kane
ooh,
came out.
This is different.
Yes,
This is a good different.
exactly. It was darker than a lot of other movies. The birth of cinematography. Before Citizen Kane, lighting was about lighting, and then after Citizen Kane, lighting was about shadows.
Yeah.
You know, and then the camera movement, all these things that they
Camera
moved
angles.
yeah, sure, they moved cameras before, but this is the first time that the camera movement meant something. We've had, like you said, we've had low angle shots before, but now we know that a low angle shot means authority, power.
That person has something. It means something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what The Last of Us is essentially. Yeah. So the movie came out in 1941. The next revolutionary era in film was the 70s. So you had like a 30-year gap where movies were just kind of movies. And then Easy Rider came out, and that sort of threw out this whole new, the new Hollywood, the new auteur movement. Like I said, I think video game industry is just a film industry in fast motion in the sense that between 7 years, between The Last of Us and now, we quickly already kind of went through like, okay, now that Citizen Kane is out, we know what movies are, let's just make movies. We've already have that. Now we're in the, okay, now like everybody that grew up understanding what movies are, now they want to make their own crazy ideas, and they're coming out with all these crazy things. And I think that's when you do get, like I said, Apocalypse Now, The Godfather, Taxi Driver, Network, Sidney Lumet, you know, all these amazing directors, all these amazing movies. But the reason why that era ended was because directors got too fucking crazy.
Oh yeah.
Their movies got too fucking
faster, more intensity.
No. Well, yeah, that. That broke everything. but like before that, like movies got too far up their own ass.
Yeah.
You know, to the point where they were like unmarketable. That's when you got your Zardoses of the world, your Beyond the Valleys of the Dolls and stuff. You look at The Last of Us, the first one. That's Citizen Kane. And it's the same director, by the way. Take the same director 7 years later, and now we're seeing like the late 70s where like all these, like they're brilliant directors, sure, but they're going fucking crazy, and we need to fucking like we need to reel this fucker in before he throws it all off the rail.
Yeah.
And he almost did. But because of that, The Last of Us Part 2, in comparison to The Last of Us, feels like it's a completely different game.
Yeah, the gameplay is the same, but in Last of Us, you have a line of like, okay, we're here, we need to get to here. Oh, okay, we need to get to here. Okay, well, now we need to get to here. Now we need to get to here.
Okay.
With The Last of Us Part 2, the fact that it's all in Seattle, it's like, okay, well, we need to get to Seattle. Okay, now we need to find our way around Seattle to all these different points. It's a very different feeling, like you said. And like, sorry, just really quick to touch on The Last of Us, or not The Last of Us, The Last Airbender. As much as I love The Legend of Korra, the sequel series to The Last Airbender, and I love all those characters in there, it suffered greatly from not having a singular villain. Because like in Last Airbender, you had 3 seasons where the big bad villain was the Fire Lord.
Yeah, the fire guy.
Yeah, legit everything happened because of the Fire Lord. In Legend of Korra, you got 4 seasons where each season has its own distinct villain. Okay. And I think, especially in season 4, even though there was some good storytelling moments, some good character arcs, it suffered greatly, especially because that villain was kind of, I think, the weakest of them all.
There's nothing to culminate to.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
exactly.
Yeah. The Last of Us Part 2 is like a director going crazy.
Absolutely.
But we're going to get to Last of Us Part 2 in just a minute. We still have a little bit more to discuss
in The Last of Us.
But like you said, the game moves faster as it goes on.
Oh, yeah. Once the story with Henry and Sam takes off, or like once you finish that story and you get to the fall section of the game, it's a straight line. It's super easy, especially because after Tommy and Maria, you don't really meet any major characters that have like an influence, I guess, over Joel and Ellie's relationship. So we've met Bill. He is the beginning of the relationship where they don't like each other. They want to be separated. They want to be alone. And then you have Henry and Sam, where they are the reflection of what they could be, basically. When you were talking earlier about how Henry saw Joel and saw that that's what he could become, I think it goes both ways, because Joel and Ellie were looking at Henry and Sam like, this is what we could be. And then we get to basically kind of the beginning of Act 3.
I would have called, but
of the family dynamic, I should say. Now you have Tommy and Maria. They are married. They are a family. Yeah, and they have a whole community. They've branched out. They're not only a family anymore. They're a town. They're a citizenship.
This is what Joel wants to come back to. He wants
Yeah.
he wants to come back to family.
Exactly.
He wants to come back to community.
Yeah,
which
'cause
is what
he-
Jackson represents. Essentially.
Absolutely. So much so that at the end of the game, he's like, "Fuck it, let's go back and to Tommy's."
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that really surprised me because I literally finished it last night. He literally says it like several times in the final chapter before they go to the hospital. Be like, "It's not too late."
It's after the giraffe bit
Yeah.
where he has his
even
hand
before
on the
that.
door.
Even
Oh,
before
oh
that.
yeah,
Even
absolutely.
before that, he says a few times. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have to do this. We can go back, go to
And-
Tommy's.
Yeah, and this is because mostly throughout most of the winter section, he's not with Ellie and he's out cold.
Yeah.
Literally and
Metaphorically.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say not literally, but I wanted to sound smart. Yeah, no. In the spring section, he says multiple times, and it's that final bit at the door where he's like, "Do you really want to do this?" And she says, "Everything I've done has to have a reason behind it."
Can't be for nothing.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite lines of Ellie's in that game. Just because like everything that she has done has built up to, I can't have gone this far and not have it mean something.
Right.
That's a very short sequence where like.
But that's what the sequence is about, though.
Yeah.
The sequence is basic. The whole point of it is to separate the characters so we can develop them individually.
Yeah.
Well, really, we just have to separate Joel from Ellie so that we can have some
And
more understanding of who Joel is as a person.
Yeah. I don't think he likes himself. He's trying to pawn off Ellie to Tommy, who I think he views is better than he is himself.
Because he does have a family. And
he does have a family.
community.
He's come back from the
brink.
from the brink, from the trauma of surviving for so long. And he even says himself when Tommy says he can't do it, he says, "Tommy, I need this." He's like, I can't do this.
Yeah. There is that very brief moment where Tommy says, "I still have nightmares from some of the things that I have seen you do." You know? And to sum it up, basically, this is a very short sequence because that's really what the whole sequence is about. It's just sort of establishing that
Joel's a murderous psychopath.
Yeah, which we know. But after spending all this time with these characters, we have a certain understanding of them. We do understand that he's dark, but when Tommy,
even post or even pre-apocalypse, he had a gun in like a living room.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just
what it all culminates to is that scene with Joel and Ellie where Joel is telling her you need to go with Tommy, and she refuses
in the little bedroom, right?
Yeah, in the little bedroom thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to move on? Do you want to summarize the next part? Because I've been sort of doing all the summarization.
Yeah. So where were we at?
Is after they meet. Is
Tommy and
the
Maria?
university?
The university.
Okay,
so there, I think is like the kind of like the test of the beginning of the relationship is like, can we survive 5 minutes alone? Where they find the university, it's abandoned because they were told that that's a Firefly base.
Right.
It's abandoned. Fireflies are dead. You find out the information of where the Fireflies went next. Then you're attacked by stragglers, and during the escape attempt, Joel gets impaled. He's critically wounded. Ellie helps Joel get through the rest of it. There's even a point where this is one of my favorite parts where like he's up against the counter. There's a guy very slowly approaching with a shotgun, and every time you try to take a shot, he gets a shot off and you can't do anything, and then it's Ellie coming through saving the day.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is just Ellie gets Joel to the horse and then gets him out of that university, and then that's when the DLC comes in. Is that it's because for the life of me I was like, how the fuck does she take care of him? That's how she takes care of Joel, is she finds a med kit. That's pretty much the fall section.
I have it fresh in my memory. The most of the first part of that level, actually, now that I think about it, the whole level is just Joel doing things for Ellie.
Pretty much.
That's it. And like stuff that she could be helping, he's just like, nah, I got it.
Yeah.
They're like in that point in that relationship where Joel just like wants to express how much he cares by expressing how much he cares.
Yeah, without saying I love you.
Yeah,
or
exactly. Yeah, he's not hugging her, but he is gonna go get that fucking ladder. Stuff like that. And then we have the sequence after Joel gets impaled that Ellie has to carry her. And I think the first instinct that most writers would have been to make her, oh my gosh, Joel, holy shit, we need to go. But no, Ellie is showing tough love. She's like, come on, get the fuck up. Like, shoot that fucking gun or fucking.
She's carrying him. He's like, I can do it. She's like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. She's like, then get fucking moving.
Yeah, exactly. Not because that's how she feels, but she needs to be tough for him.
Yeah, especially during the middle of that tense ass situation, they're being attacked
being
by people.
And she's like a what 14? She's like a
She's
14-year-old girl.
Yeah, she's 14 at that point.
Yeah, and she's being surrounded by all these big motherfuckers with guns and shit.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then we get to we're in Act 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is when we bring our characters down to their lowest moment.
Yeah.
What happens in Act 3?
So in Act 3, without the DLC, Ellie has been taking care of Joel. She is hunting. She's like scavenging around for supplies. She finds an elk or like a deer. I think it's a deer.
Yes,
I don't know my animals. I don't hunt. But she finds an animal that has enough meat to support the both of them. Along the way, she meets 2 other scavengers named David and other guy doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. But David's the big point, and it surprised the shit out of me that's Nolan North.
Yeah,
that's Drake. I was like,
what? I didn't know that the first time I played it, but then this time watching it, like I was playing that with that in mind, and I was like, I don't see him.
Yeah, no, the most recent time I was like, I don't see it, but I can fucking hear it.
Yeah. Sometimes you can hear that little. You can hear that Nathan Drake popping through.
Exactly. But yeah, so you have a quick section with him where it's like the Resident Evil 4 defend the cabin sequence.
Yeah.
Where you're fending off the infected, and thankfully, if you have the rifle, every shot you do, no matter if it's in the body or if it's in the leg or something, it'll kill the infected.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because more often than not, I'm a terrible shot. But yeah, so that happens, and then you travel along. You have a little camp with him where you're just trying to keep fire going. And he says everything happens for a reason. A couple weeks back, I sent some men out to look for supplies, and they were all brutally murdered by a crazy man and a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Ellie starts immediately losing her shit because she knows then that he's talking about the 2 of them, and they are after her for now nefarious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it is a frantic escape kind of sequence where she doesn't.
Right.
And she gets kidnapped and finds out that they are cannibals. They all want to kill her. They all want to kill Joel. But David's like, no, this girl, she can come around. She's cool. And then basically tries to win her over. Ellie says, fuck you. And that's
in such a badass way.
In such a badass way. Yeah, like lures him in. And it's so creepy. Where like, because it's very obvious that he wants her for predatory reasons.
Right, yeah.
And like, she like lures him in for false sense of security, breaks his fucking finger, like you said, so much badass way. He like slams her up against the door to get free.
Yeah.
And then is like, okay, fuck it, this is the end now. She's like, she's like, you asked my name. It's Ellie. Tell them Ellie's the little girl who broke your fucking finger. I was like, oh, that's so fucking cool. I love Ashley Johnson, her voice actress, the voice actress for Ellie, so much because her performance is just so good.
So at this point,
David, or go ahead.
Yeah, no. So at this point, David finds out
that she's infected.
Yes.
Because they're gonna cut her up. They're like, fuck it, she might as well be food if she's not gonna join. That's when she reveals that she's infected. And in the commotion of whether or not it's real or if it's not, like, oh, she would have turned by now. Kills the fucking other guy. That's why we don't care about his name. Escapes from David, and then is just lost in their little community. This is the sequence where this is the feeling that they wanted to capture again for Last of Us Part 2. And I think they do it very well. It's just that in Last of Us Part 2, Ellie is older, she's more capable. Yeah. She's got more tools to play with than she does in this sequence. You cannot breathe because at any moment, turning any corner, you can run into one of these guys and they will kill you. They will not hesitate. Mm-hmm. And then you wake up as Joel, you try to find her, and then he's kind of despicable, but at the same time, it's very baller. It's a very good thing to do where he sets it up to where he has one person tied to a chair, beats the shit out of him, ties someone else to a different chair, beats the shit out of him.
Confirming information,
where he's like, don't tell me, point it out or write it out. And then if your buddy says the same thing, I know you're telling the truth. And doesn't give a shit about what the other guy says, just fucking kills him and then kills the other guy. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing with the kneecap, that was really cool. Where he's like, fuck you, I'm not telling anything. Just drives a knife into the guy's knee and just turns really quick. He's like, you better talk or I'm going to pop your kneecap off.
And that really gets to me because pain to the knee is one of my most biggest fears.
Yeah.
Getting like this knee trauma. Knee trauma and swallowing glass
are
my two biggest.
Swallowing glass
are my two biggest fears on the world.
Yeah, I've never been a very active kid for fear of breaking a bone. It's not necessarily that I'm afraid that like I'll break a bone. It's more of I won't be able to afford the
healthcare.
Yeah, the healthcare.
Very American.
Very American.
It's the American way of life. I'm not gonna do anything because I can't afford if anything.
I can't
goes
afford
wrong.
if I get hurt. So then, yeah, it culminates in a fight scene or in a very intense boss scene. I think the only boss
The only boss
sequence
fight in the game.
in the game where
From what I understand, the second one only has like one boss scene too.
I haven't experienced it yet, but
No,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I heard it comes in the second half of the game.
Oh, it makes sense. Yeah, it's probably.
It kind of pisses me off that I'm not already in the second half of the game.
Yeah. We'll get there in a bit. The only boss fight in the game, and it's very well done, where you are Ellie, you are at the door, you are about to escape, and you don't because you're pulled back by David, and he's got a gun, he's got a machete, you have jack shit.
Yeah.
You have your knife, and that's it. It's a tiny little thing too. You can't confront him head on, so you have to sneak around this this restaurant.
Yeah.
There's broken glass everywhere, so if you step on it at all, you're gonna make noise. He's gonna find you.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, it's very easy. He's walking around. He's confident. He's got a gun. If he finds you, he'll just shoot you. And then you hit him once. He tosses the gun to the side, brings out his machete. Still again walking around very confident. He's like, I'm a bigger guy. I have a machete. She has a tiny knife. If I find her, I got the range.
Yeah.
When you get him a second time, that's when he's like, okay, time to get serious. You cannot listen for him anymore because he's doing the exact same thing you're doing. He's crouching around. He's hiding. He's not making any noise. And it's so fucking terrifying. The fifth, because I played it about 6 times, and the 5th time was the very first time he ever got me.
Okay.
Where I was backing up because I was so certain he was around a corner, and a cutscene played of him just stabbing Ellie through the back and letting her drop. I was like, what the fuck? Okay, instant death. Great. Didn't know this was a thing. And then the 6th time, I died twice because I think you touched on it a bit, like on Facebook. The higher the difficulty you go, the stupider the AI gets, and not like they're dumb. They're hypersensitive. I've not made a single sound. I was like 10 feet away from a clicker.
Yeah.
And they still knew I was there.
Yeah.
Stealth isn't an option when you go higher difficulties for Last of Us Part 1. And damage output, you don't put enough damage, especially even if you get a headshot on somebody, unless it's like the rifle, you don't get enough damage on the person, so you waste a lot of ammo. You go through resources really quickly.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person that likes to play games. Usually, first time I play through a game, I'll play on hard. The Last of Us 2 is an exception just because, like, I don't know.
Story-wise.
Just the vibes, man.
Yeah.
And also the story. I want to get through the story.
Yeah, I'm playing on moderate.
Yeah, that's what I'm playing, too.
Yeah, it's so far that seems like the best way to play it.
Yeah.
Because it's the perfect balance of you're doing enough damage to them, they're doing enough damage to me.
No, yeah, I remember I was playing through hard on The Last of Us, and it took me like an hour to get through the first section.
You mean past the big moment?
I'm talking about like the first couple of combat sequences like that. And I was like shooting a dude in the head, didn't have a helmet, then I shoot him again. It took like 4 shots to kill one guy.
Yeah,
shooting him in the head, and I was just like,
even getting a headshot with like the bow and arrow, which should be an instant kill, it's still difficult because for some reason the arrow breaks off.
When you take the gameplay of something like Uncharted and then try to put it into something as grounded and real as The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Naughty Dog, they're great game makers.
Yeah.
But they're not like From Software where they have like a nuanced and interesting technique towards exploring difficulty. It's just like, we'll just bump up the numbers.
Naughty Dog with Uncharted, or specifically with The Last of Us, I want to say that is like the cornerstone, I guess, of cinematic video games.
Definitely.
Where you are taking part in the story. It's like with giving Ellie high fives, with giving Bill the letter, with telling jokes from a joke book until they decide to run out. You are taking part in the story. With From Software, like with Dark Souls, with Bloodborne, Demon Souls, whatever else they come out with, the story is kind of set in stone. You don't know the story unless you actively read and like actively search for it.
From Software, their gameplay and their stories, like they're tonally in sync with each other.
It's one of the instances where not being able to pick your difficulty and having the difficulty preset for you is also very storytelling, very thematic of like what the world is going to be like.
Kind of like how The Last of Us doesn't give you a choice at the end.
Yeah.
The Last of Us gives you different difficulties, sure. The gameplay doesn't change
Yeah.
at all in between them.
Better numbers than you, so they always have the upper hand.
Yeah, in a game like Uncharted, where it's like this, light sort of thing, like, of course, I don't care if I shoot one guy in the head 30 times.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's a fantasy.
Yeah, it's a fantasy.
It's a treasure hunting Indiana Jones pirate type fantasy fulfillment.
But The Last of Us is a grounded, serious sort of thing. So when in that story you see someone get shot 3 times in the head and nothing happens, you're just like
that takes me out of it.
It creates what's it called? Ludonarrative dissonance.
Narrative dissonance.
Something like that.
Like the AI handling of like I'm gonna run around. Way better handled in Last of Us Part 2. It's very nice. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
That's one of the definite big improvements over the first game.
Yeah.
But let's get back to this sequence right here. So then he finds Ellie, and what I really liked about this scene is it's quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost there's some dialogue, but it's like incidental. It's not like something you have to pay attention to.
When he finds her in like the middle of hacking up David.
Yeah, exactly.
Just really quick to finish up that sequence. When you beat David, there's a bit of a struggle, but Ellie is able to get his machete, get on top of him, and just hacks away at his face.
Yeah,
and it's so rewarding.
Yeah, there's like a initial like yeah, fuck yeah, and then it kind of goes on, and you're like.
Okay, all right. You getting some steam off.
Ellie.
It's all right, we're concerned for you now.
Yeah. and then Joel comes and saves her, and then it's just like this very brief, quiet moment where they just hold each other.
Mm-hmm.
Ellie finally
and he calls her baby girl.
Calls her baby girl. Yeah, kind of like he calls her.
Like, oh my baby girl. Like he's so concerned for her.
Yeah. We, along with Ellie, finally get to
take a breath. Finally get a breath.
Yeah.
I think I said all I wanted to say about the DLC.
All right.
Where it's a perfect blend of like you were playing a game, you're also experiencing a story. Whereas when you're playing it through the flashback sequence, when you're walking with Riley, that's all you're doing. You're just walking.
Yeah.
Until you like, there's even a point where you get to the Halloween store, and there's hardly any collectibles there. It's just the masks.
I love that.
The masks and the gags.
Yeah, the mask was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I like how in the second game too you can do the facial thing in the mirror.
Yeah, in the mirror. Yeah, I had fun with that.
I did too.
Have you found the Drake ring?
No, I didn't know there was a Drake ring.
It's in the very first part of Seattle, which, by the way, really quick, just comment on the amount of time you spend. The game it's very linear, but the areas are so open.
Yeah.
Where I wasted, I want to say 2 to 3 hours just exploring the first section that you get to in Seattle.
I did too.
Because you find one thing, it's like, oh, okay, I'll go and get this. I got the shotgun. I was like, oh, fun, that's great. And the ring is like in the bank.
Yeah.
It's in like a little safe. It's like a little safety deposit box. So you can easily spend a lot of time just exploring, and holy shit, I think that's where a lot of the pacing comes from, because it's like something happened to this character, well, we got to get something for this character, let me spend some like 10 minutes in this fucking building that I don't know if is progress or not, to scavenge around, which it especially in the beginning when you first get to Seattle, that big open area,
right,
you get inside the bank, it's like, oh cool, I found the bank, I found all this cool stuff in the bank. And then in the bank, it's like, oh, hey, there's this other area with some cool stuff. Oh, okay, I'll go explore that. Yeah. And then along the way, you're like, oh, that looks interesting. Mark it on the map. And then, oh, hey, we're at this other place. There's this thing pointing to this other place. Let's go check that out. There's like 6 or 7 different places to check out, and it's so wide open that it takes time, even on the horse, to get there. So you can spend a lot of time just exploring.
I definitely want to touch upon how that plays into the story. But this is going to get back to the last
of Us.
The last part of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Right? The last of The Last of Us. So
spring.
Yeah, spring. So before we get to this moment, we have that little quiet moment where we finally get to breathe
on the after David.
After David. And then the game, the next chapter starts off with that same sense of calm, that same sense of relief, which is a weird thing to feel when you're about to end a story.
Yeah.
The first half of it is very reflective. It's very quiet. It's them moving through Salt Lake City. We have the infamous giraffe moment. Seeing that childlike wonder snap back into Ellie after all the shit that she'd gone through. It's a very powerful moment. And it's also cleverly, in the sort of like hidden way, reminding you again what you're losing.
Yeah.
Or what Joel is being asked to give up.
She runs and she's like, Joel, come on, like
Yeah.
she's like a kid at the zoo with her
It's-
dad.
You know what it is? It's the relief of seeing someone go back to their old self.
Yeah. Or at least when I was playing it, I got this sense of like it comes around full circle where
Right.
like at the beginning of the relationship, when they first saw the building that was like their original destination, he asks her, "Is this everything you want?" And she's like, "I can't deny that view."
Mm-hmm.
And now this time around, he's like, "Is this everything you wanted?" She's like, "Hey, you can't deny that view." It's like it's a complete 180. That was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And you get to linger on it too.
Yeah, no, and I did.
Yeah.
I did. I lingered. I sat there. I knew I couldn't move the controller whenever, but you know what? I was like, Ellie needs a chill.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's
And
just take this in.
Yeah,
for a
and
bit.
then what I like too is that once you do leave, Ellie stays.
Yeah.
And you could just let her stay there as long
You
as
could
you
let
want.
her have her own moment.
Yeah, because me being the type of gamer that I am, where I'm
Mm.
like, I want to see everything. I don't want to miss a damn thing.
Exactly.
Before that, she makes you run through like 2 buildings
Mhm.
to get to that.
Mhm.
And in my head, I'm like, oh, these resources, all the
Yeah,
bills,
legit.
so like,
I didn't even go back and look for
yeah,
those.
no, so I went all the way back to the beginning,
Uh-huh.
and even though like halfway through, I was like, oh, they didn't put anything here.
Yeah.
I was some head. Well,
It's
I should
neg.
go back to make sure.
Yeah. Just
So-
to double
so
check. They
she-
might have had a little bit
Yeah,
of thing there.
so she got a good 15 minutes before I fucking hit her up to help
Yeah.
me finish the game.
there
know?
you go.
Then that moment happens. A very brief sequence in the tunnel, which is just pure combat,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah, and that's just like run of the mill. This is infected stuff. Even if you're halfway stocked, if you know what you're doing with all the different tools you have, you're good.
Yeah, dude, with a bloater, like 2 shotgun shells and like fucking 1 Molotov.
Yeah.
Two, you're
Oh,
set.
I threw a Molotov and I just had my flamethrower.
Oh yeah,
So, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
fucking with this flamethrower too. Dude. You know what sucks? They give you the flamethrower and the assault rifle right at the end.
So late into the game, like the
It's-
assault
it's
rifle, I
like-
understand,
yeah,
but the flamethrower, it could have come in so much easier.
right. It's like
Or
it's
so
like,
much
it's like an
earlier.
infamous Second Son, where like you get the very best power 30 minutes before the game
which
ends.
was with the concrete,
The
right?
concrete.
Yeah.
and then the game
And that
just
was just
ends.
that was a messy final boss.
So now we're moving on to the big moment of the
Mhm.
game. So
You meet the fireflies,
when you
and they're
finally-
dicks.
Yeah, they are. It's completely unlikable.
Uh-huh.
Joel finds out what the Fireflies have in store,
For Ellie.
and he is about to be escorted out.
Mhm.
But I want to put this in context for a minute. One of the biggest trends of the 7th generation of video games was choice.
Mhm.
Usually binary choice.
Yeah, especially with
either-
like
either-
Telltale games.
Yeah, either you're Hitler or you're Jesus.
Yeah.
You know? And so choices were sort of like the de facto, sort of like, this is how we interact with worlds now
Mhm.
and all. And it, you see it less now, or it's a little more well thought out, but that was the initial thing of it. This game refuses you the choice.
Mm-hmm. Like the only time you get a choice is like tiny little interactions,
Yeah.
which are rather inconsequential.
Yeah, like you said, like give him build a note. Or
Yeah,
not.
like,
just kind of shade the story. In
That I
different
mean,
ways.
that changes things entirely because if you don't give him the note, which I didn't know you could do,
Yeah. But this choice right here, and I think it's poetic because in Joel's mind, there's no choice to
there
be
is
made
absolutely
either.
no choice. Like he
And-
takes one look at his backpack and he's like, "There's nothing else for me to do except for this."
Player made choices was how the video game industry thought we're gonna approach stories within the medium of games.
Yeah,
It was about the choices we make and how they color us, the player, as the character. Naughty Dog said, "No, there's other ways we can do this."
Mhm.
You really are kind of given the role of the supervillain.
yeah,
Of the worst person on the fucking planet.
absolutely.
And because Joel kills everyone
Mm-hmm.
and lies to Ellie, nobody's ever going to know.
Yeah.
Like, no one's ever going to know how close they were to, like, fixing everything.
Fuck, like during just the entire section, it's like, okay, I gotta get to Ellie, I gotta save her, but at the same time, like, holy wait, no, this has really big ramifications. Like,
Right.
they had it down, like they were able to make a vaccine.
They had a
like,
plan.
yeah, like,
they seem
the
to have
way-
everything in place.
Yeah, the way Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies, the way she speaks with 100% certainty, like, we can do this, we can bring the world back, we can
Right.
save everyone. But because Joel is so attached to Ellie, he makes the very selfish choice of, so wait, she's gonna die though?
Right.
Yeah, it's a hard choice, but it's one we have to make. And he's like, fucking no, she's coming out of this alive, and fuck the rest of the world.
He says right before they go into the hospital, I ain't leaving the hospital without you.
I mean, legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a very kind of fuck you moment where Joel was like, the world has taken so much from me. It's not going to take this one last thing, this one last shred of humanity that I believe I have.
Right. Yeah.
So
like all perfectly realized story, it's about one thing. The whole game is betting that like if it plays its cards right, you will experience, like you said initially, I gotta go get Ellie. I think you're working your way, you're killing all these people. And what I like too is, maybe this is just in my head, but like I had this vibe that like all the soldiers that were coming after me were just confused, like,
yeah,
really, we gotta stop from this.
They make it really easy for you to forget that you're being the bad guy by the initial interaction you have with the Firefly, where like coming out of the tunnel, Ellie can't swim and she gets hit. She's unconscious underwater. So as Joel, you swim, you bring her back up, you save her, you start trying to give her CPR. And that's when a Firefly soldier finds you and tells Joel to put his hands up. But Joel just continues to go and try to bring her back.
Very reminiscent of the opening of the game too.
Yeah, no, I didn't even realize that.
No, I didn't notice it until playing it yesterday. It's almost even that camera movement that I mentioned earlier, where you just see him like same camera movement and everything. It's crazy.
Shit.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that. Trying to save her, he's completely ignoring the soldier, and the soldier knocks him out. And then that's when you wake up in the hospital. And because of that, like the absolute lack of a shit that this guy has for Joel trying to bring Ellie back, that makes it very easy for you to forget that you are killing people who have a goal in mind, who have the goal is to save the world.
Right.
And just completely forget all about all that and go after your own selfish desire of protect the girl that I care about the most.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's the GTA thing where like if you make the people assholes, you're not going to feel bad about killing them.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the moment for you when it settled in?
Where he was an absolute villain?
Yeah.
So we're going to fast forward a bit. Joel has saved Ellie. They're going back to Jackson and she knows something is wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's even earlier when they're driving away and she asks what happened. She's in the back seat and he says they stopped looking for a cure. She turns away from him. I'm like, oh, that hurts. But it was all set in stone when she tells him, swear to me that you weren't lying about the Fireflies. And he goes, just like he takes a breath. He's like, I swear.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, fuck, Joel.
Yep.
What the fuck, man? And she even takes a breath. Like she knows he's lying.
Yeah.
She just doesn't know how to approach it. And she just goes, okay.
Yeah.
Like that's when I was like, fuck.
You know, this is after the Last of Us. There was a TED Talk that came out. But it was someone like her job was she's like a human lie detector. Her job is to be able to spot when someone's lying based on their body language, their vocal patterns, blah blah blah. She was going on in this whole thing about how to tell when someone's lying. It's a pretty standard thing. But then at the end, she said, "There's one thing every lie needs to work. It's one thing.
Kernel of truth.
Very simple. No, not even that." The person that's being lied to needs to want to believe.
Oh.
That's the power of a lie.
Yeah.
Is that instinctively, deep down inside, we all know when we're getting lied to.
Oh, yeah.
But when it's someone that like we really expect more out of,
a brother you look up to, someone that you're dating.
You don't want to even consider that they will lie to you. So even though they did something they said they didn't do or whatever, you just need them to say that they didn't do it so that you can tell yourself they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then you can go on with that lie however you wish.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, you need that person to want to believe that lie.
Yeah. If The Last of Us gave you a choice of whether you save the world or save Ellie, that would have broken everything.
Yeah, and it would have made the sequel impossible to deal with.
Yeah,
with the
like
other
and
one.
like if Last of Us Part 2 has a choice at the end of it, but it's the last one, so they're not gonna make a Part 3, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just go ahead and move right on into
because that's the end of The Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah. So let's start with this. The spoilers.
You mean the leaks?
The leaks.
Okay.
Yeah, the leaks.
Never took a single look at a leak. I read comments and I read about like golf mini games. I'm pretty sure they were talking about the guitar mini game that you can do.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's about it. And then I read the spoiler that a certain character dies.
Yeah. I looked up The Last of Us 2 on YouTube and unfortunately that was just one of the first things that popped up on there.
A lot of what I had read is that like they're forcing diversity because of a particular character's sexual orientation.
Unfortunately, the anger at
The Last of Us
The
Part 2.
Last of Us Part 2 for
it's
having
a section of it.
Yeah, for
Which-
having the balls of to just for including a human,
Mhm.
you know?
Which, by the way, sorry, I just blanked. There's a person?
Oh shit.
Is there?
Oh fuck. Okay. So I had 3 things spoiled for me.
Okay.
Actually, one of them was the inciting incident, which we both know happened.
Yeah. I mean,
One of them,
about that really quick. If you've seen the first teaser trailer, you had that idea in your
Yeah,
head.
I think
The
everybody
way they
saw
framed
that.
it, the way they had it all shot, like,
Yeah, it was one of those things that when I read it, like, it didn't really surprise me. There was 2 other things that got spoiled.
Mhm.
One of them is that one character is in the
Mhm.
game, and everybody's mad.
I
And
think
then-
I know who it is.
And then,
but
unfortunately, I think I might have had like the big twist revealed to me.
mm,
Even if, I hope it's not, because I hear there's a lot of big twists in the game. I hope it's
Uh-huh.
not the twist that everything is hinging on.
yeah,
Not because I don't think the story's gonna suffer, just because like I would have wished I would have experienced it.
yeah,
alone. Look, spoilers are spoilers, man.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at any movie, any book, anything as like just a series of like points without any context,
mm-hmm.
any story will look silly.
Oh
Any-
yeah,
you know,
like it's one thing to hear something and like have it be out of context, like you said. It's an entirely different thing to experience it.
right?
Like I knew a certain character died. It was still fucking heart wrenching to
Right.
watch it.
Yeah. So we're roughly at the same spot.
Around the
you're
same
you're
area.
a little further.
A little further
you're a
ahead,
little
just because
further ahead.
I'm a complete jackass and I don't mind fucking up my sleep schedule.
Yeah.
just to play a game that I've been looking forward to.
I'm in my 30s. I
Yeah.
can't be like that no more.
Yeah.
Booting it up the first time, what
Mhm.
was running through your head? What were you anticipating?
Oh,
And
jeez.
most importantly, was it what you wanted? And if not what you wanted,
Um,
was it what you needed?
See, that's the thing. I don't really know. I just wanted Last of Us 2. I was ready for whatever it was gonna give me.
Mhm.
I wasn't expecting it to be so. There's a lot of weed. Okay, we get it. Weed, you're cool. That's the only thing that like kind of caught me by surprise and that I found off-putting is like there's so much of it. It was so heavy-handed. Like, oh, weed's so cool. It's like
Yeah, no,
it's 2020 now.
Yeah, it's weed, bro. Like, chill
yeah,
out.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Which now hearing that they were ready to go at like 2018. I can believe it because like 2018, it was still kind of popular. Now it's kind of like, okay, cool. I really enjoyed it. It was very calm. It was very peaceful. But I knew like it was also dread because like
It's The Last of Us.
it's The Last of
Yeah.
Us. I know what's coming. I'm just wondering how it's gonna play out. I'm wondering how brutal it's gonna be.
right.
And surprisingly, on the one hand, it starts off brutal, but like it doesn't feel like it ends pretty abruptly.
yeah.
Like I thought we were gonna get a close up of how gruesome the scene was gonna be.
yeah.
Which at the beginning, again, an entire leg is almost blown off.
Right.
But like the actual initial moment, it was brutal, but not like grotesque.
Yeah.
So
It was tasteful.
yeah, I was very surprised by that. Like, because like if it was like Game of Thrones, they'd be all up in there. It was very tasteful. It was still heart wrenching. Like again, I knew it was coming. Didn't expect to like have it be that way,
Mhm.
and I was still heartbroken because this is a character that I spent time with.
Right.
This is a character that I've grown attached to,
Yeah.
and now they're gone.
Right. Definitely.
Like I hovered once that happens, and once you recoup, you visit that person's grave. I hovered over that person's grave for a moment.
yeah.
Just because, like, fuck, they're gone.
Like you, I was there, and I had this immense sadness, but also like in my head, I kept thinking about the first game.
Mm-hmm.
I kept thinking
Yeah.
about the consequences, the ramifications,
Mm-hmm.
and this moment
Mhm.
right here. It's really gonna fucking tear a new asshole into this world.
Oh yeah.
You know,
And
not
it's-
just because it's Ellie,
Uh huh.
but because of how this game widens its scope
Mhm.
instantly. Pretty early on in the game, you start out playing as Ellie, then you play as this other character.
Which caught me by complete surprise.
Caught me by surprise.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that. Too.
Yeah. So you play as a character for a little bit.
But what I was getting at, it's very jarring to see a character that you love so much
Mm-hmm.
through a completely different lens, even though you know certain characters like different inclinations, the darkness that they carry within them. it's very different to see them through the lens of I hate you.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what the game is playing with,
Yeah.
like on a very real level. Like, I don't know about you, but sometimes when you kill someone will go up on their body. They'll be like, "That's my brother," something like that.
You mean all the AIs?
Yeah, all the AIs.
I thought they were like bluffing. I thought it was gonna be like a one time kind of a trick where like if you kill a dog, which by the way,
fuck, I can't bring myself to get even close to a dog. I need to throw something at them to kill them. I don't want to see it. Even hearing it just makes me feel like shit.
I will do my utmost to not kill them.
Yeah.
But like I'll place a bomb, and if they happen to go around, there was one time where they had my trail, and I was like, "This is the only way I'm getting around this." Put a bomb down, got them, and then popped around the corner to get his owner in the head.
Yeah,
and I was, it's so fucking, I can't deal with it. I will do everything in my power to either not kill them or have it be where I'm not there.
Yeah, like human beings, I'll kill them all.
Oh
fucking
yeah,
day.
absolutely,
love it.
Yeah, like fucking. I am legend, man.
But like it's a constant gameplay.
Yeah, and it's like
man.
It's heart wrenching, and every time I have to do it up close because they're right there, it's like just fucking go away, please. I know you're only doing what you're trained, but go away.
Can you just go play fetch, boy?
Yeah, be
please,
scared. Come on.
Yeah, can you just roll over?
Yeah,
roll over, boy, please.
Oh, shit. But then it's always to where it's like if it's not just them, like they're always surrounded by somebody, and they're always going to give away your location, so you have to take care of them. And I hate it. I just want to adopt them all, take them back to Jackson, and let them be what they want to be.
Right, let them be peaceful doggos, wacky little
just
boys.
Go back to what forget the training, forget the horde-ness.
Yeah, the dogs is one thing. The humans having names is another thing too. That definitely has a purpose to it too, though, because like
it's really reinforcing the idea of you are fucking up people's lives.
The first game plays with it.
Yeah,
the first game kind of plays with the David character.
Yeah,
you know, here's how your actions look from our point of view.
Yeah,
this is the whole crux of the second game, though.
It's all about perspective. I don't think there are any heroes in this universe. All I will say, because I know more about the story than you do, as much as it feels like a certain character is out for revenge, and they are far more entitled to it than even Ellie is.
You might be touching on one of the spoilers that I know.
Yeah. And
if that's the case, great. Then that means it's coming early to the game, so there's other shit going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the initial sequence, we moved to Seattle, and I think we touched upon this. This is when the game starts to run into some issues.
Yeah. Just so much to explore, which on the one hand is really good. At the other hand, kind of messes with the pacing.
The Last of Us, it's not an open world game.
It's not.
I know in Uncharted Lost Legacy they went with it and it works better there.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I haven't played that one yet.
I've only played through a little bit of it. It works better there because like there's
you're
something
exploring.
Yeah, there's something.
The initial crux of the Uncharted is that you're explorers.
Yeah, it makes sense. With The Last of Us, the open environment,
and this is not to say that they made Last of Us Part 2 an open world.
No, they didn't.
It's just that they very, very much broadened up the environment of which you get to explore.
Right.
And it's very big. Because of that, more often than not, I am set with all my stuff.
Yes.
So when I go exploring again, I'm mostly looking for like the collectibles, like the cards or coins or something like that.
Or just looking at the environments for the storytelling and stuff like that.
Yeah, because like I'll run into like a rag or some blades. It's like, oh, I'm full. Oh, okay. You get to a point where it's like you have 3 health kits. You used one. Oh, go ahead and craft another one. Yeah. It's like I have that many materials.
Yeah, exactly. I just ran into a sequence, the Hillcrest sequence, where you're just running towards the
TV station.
The TV station.
Yeah.
I got so sick of it. How many neighborhoods do I gotta go through?
Exactly.
That's the big issue. Is that like while making an open world, you have to make it semi-realistic, which means you gotta make it semi-realistic to travel through.
Yeah.
Which means, like you said, like you were kind of saying earlier, like the open world part of the game, like you have a horse, sure, but it's still like a big part.
Yeah.
And you still have to travel around there. Like with the Hillcrest side, and I also felt it in the Seattle Day 1 chapter too, because you're also just kind of going everywhere.
That open area is just like, it's not even on the way of where you're going. It's you have to go out of your way to go here to grab a thing to unlock the thing to go through.
Over there, yeah.
It's an offset.
Yeah.
So it does kind of mess with the pacing and like
And pacing is everything in storytelling.
Yeah.
You need to have, and there's so little to the
Like,
story. It's a
yeah.
basic story. At that point, like all you know is Ellie wants revenge,
Mm-hmm.
and then throughout the whole section, that's all you got.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you get like one more revelation
Yeah.
about the character you're traveling with.
Yeah.
It's a thing that happens.
It kind of.
but it doesn't really right now affect anything.
Yeah. It kind of adds some urgency. A little bit.
Yeah, that's how I feel too
But
about it.
that's
Like
it.
it's a weird development. It's
like on the one hand, it's kind of relieving, really, because that character, that the thing that happens with that character, kind of makes that character stay behind. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm on my own. I kind of prefer this
Mhm.
because I don't have to worry about. Granted, the AI is still helpful, but they do kind of get in the way. I'd rather be Ellie on my own.
Right.
I'd rather be. Because that's kind of the whole thing is Ellie is on her own. She
Right.
doesn't have, with having the flashback sequences of going back and forth between present day and then like 4 years ago or 2 years ago or however many, whatever time period they want to do, it does affect it. It does affect the pacing because you're always going back. You searching for somebody and then that person already being dealt with is kind of also like, just kind of, it gives you a sense of defeat.
How do you feel about the story, man? How do you feel about where it's at right now? How do you feel about how it's being told?
I like it. I don't think it's as well told as the first one.
Yeah.
Because again, you're going back and forth.
Are you starting
feels
to?
like
Are you starting to worry?
kind of?
Yeah.
Because what I've been told is that you handled it like what I've been told is that it's like it's their big game and it's like they're doing really well in the second half, and then the first half, and then the second half they kind of drop the ball. And then at the beginning or at the very end of it, you think
it's the Niners at the Super Bowl this year.
I guess. But then like they look like they're gonna turn it around. They look like they're gonna finish strong, and then they don't.
So you already. So you've already.
I'm kind of. I kind of think I'm at the point where they're starting to drop the ball.
Yeah. See, it's funny because you're further than me,
Yeah.
and I started to feel like they dropped the ball about an hour into Washington day one.
Really.
Yeah.
There is
Okay.
some pickup because you actually finally do get some like progress. You find out information that you need to progress the present day story, but you also find out what's been going on with Ellie and Joel through one of the flashback sequences.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's a mess, but I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah.
So far, I'm not disappointed
Yeah.
too much yet. It's just
I can't-
it does feel like it's slowing down. It does feel like it's going at a snail's pace.
So I'm still enjoying the game.
Yeah.
But
I think overall,
But I'm starting to get flashbacks to Mass Effect 3 a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I remember it very clearly. The memory of when I bought it, it was in the GameStop here in town
Mhm.
first opened up. Go there and I'm like, oh hey, I'm gonna buy the game. Good chance for me to stop by, see what the new store looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I go there and I buy the game, and the guy is like, he's like looking at me like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, fuck, whatever. He's like, have you heard anything about the ending? And I'm like, no. If you come back here, man, I kind of want to know what you think of it. And then I played it. I got to the ending. I was fucking livid like the whole rest of the world. I understood what everybody was talking about. Why? I'm starting to get there, man. I'm starting to get those shades of feelings where it's not so much the story being told to me. It's not the choices they're making in the story that's bothering me.
Mhm.
It's telling it, man. It's just as important. A story is just as important to tell it right as it is to get it right.
Absolutely.
I'm at the point now where I don't think there's a way this can be salvaged to be as amazing as the first game.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to play out like that. I can already tell. It's too sprawling. It's too muddled. We're not going to get that concise, special story that we got the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
I've given up on that.
Yeah.
I'm at the point now where I'm just sort of like mitigating my expectations, managing them, so I'm not too disappointed.
I am there too. I am very scared of what the ending is going to be.
Don't you hate? I don't like that feeling.
Yeah, neither
though,
do
man.
I. Like, I want to see the end of the story, but I'm gonna fucking hate it.
If I had to guess what I'm gonna say next week when we do the spoiler version of this podcast,
When we've beaten the game.
when we've beaten the game. If I had to guess right now, what I think I'm going to say when this whole game is over, based off of my writer brain and all that, is that this is a game that is trying to be a better game than the first one
Yeah.
and trying to be a better story. But in order to be better at both, it's like you're going in two different directions here.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you're telling a deeper story. I could
far
see
more
that.
personal story.
A more
yeah.
personal story. There's more emotional things going on at the beginning than there was at the beginning of the first game.
Mhm.
There's more shade. It's a more complicated story. That's cool. But then at that point, you're moving towards novels. You're moving towards movies, comics.
movies.
Yeah, this direction is moving in the opposite direction of the game.
Yeah.
Where it's expanding. It's open. It's more open world now, and it's a better game overall than the first one. Don't get me wrong.
I enjoyed the gameplay. I think having all the options that you do as Ellie as opposed to that you had as Joel in the first one, it's definitely a step up. There are so many like tiny little technical things too. Like I like when you craft something or when you have the ability to craft something, I like the very audible clink you get. I like being able to silence my one of my other guns as opposed to just only relying on the bow.
Yeah,
I like having different ammo types for my bow.
I like being able to crawl under things. And
yeah,
I like how the game is more vertical as well as more horizontal.
You have so many areas to go through, and you have so many ways to approach different obstacles. Having like all the characters having like specific names and like relations to each other, that is very good for both like gameplay and theme wise. Like this is just reinforcing that you are fucking with these people's lives. But I also like that they have their own, like they can think. They're not just AIs. They're not just gonna follow a path. Like if they think you're under a car, they'll look for you under a car.
Right. So
So
if I had to put a score on the game, what it is right now, and what I think I'm gonna give it when it's all said and done. Right now, this is a 8 out of 10
Yeah,
for me,
absolutely.
and a lot of that is heavy on the gameplay. I think by the time it's over,
probably gonna be like a 7, a very light 7.
I don't know, man. I'm
Almost
hoping, dude,
just enough of a 7 to make it.
Let's
a
put
7.
it this way: in the best worst case scenario spectrum, realistically, I'm expecting a 7. I'm not gonna lie, dude.
Lower.
I can see them dropping the ball so bad in the story. It could be a 6 or a 5 for me.
Oh,
I can see it. I'm not gonna lie. I hate to say it. I don't think my score is gonna go up.
yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I don't think this is gonna be a 9 or a 10.
No.
If it ends off on an 8, then great.
Yeah.
But I can see I see what you mean by coming it down to a 6 or a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
Not sure about 5.
Yeah.
But that just might be me being ever hopeful.
Narratively, this game is a house of cards that is just they haven't even built the foundation right. You know, how about you? If you had to give it a score now and you had to predict what you're gonna give it down the line.
Again, gameplay wise, actually for gameplay, I'd give it like 8.5 for gameplay. I really enjoy playing it.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah. Right now it's like kind of like at a 7.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, okay, we get it. You want revenge? Let's go and get it. But yeah, they're building up a lot of things. I have no idea if I'm at the halfway point or not.
I know, like I'm in Act 2 somewhere, but Act 2 is always the longest part of a story.
Yeah.
And I have no idea where on the timeline of Act 2 I'm at.
Yeah.
I feel like I'll know when Act 3 comes.
Yeah.
But Act 2 it feels like it has like 20 acts in it. And it's like,
okay, I'm on day 3. Are there 7 days? Are there 21 days? Am I out here a whole year? What happens?
I did one of those things where like I just went on IGN just to see the walkthrough titles to see roughly where I'm at.
Yeah.
It got me really mad to see how early on I am generally. But even then, like after like chapter 6, they don't give you the titles of any of the locations. So I don't really know where this is going. I will say this, man. I will say this. I have no idea where the story can go.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I love that, and I love that feeling.
That is true. That is true.
You know?
Like as much as they can just add stuff and prolong the end, it can go anywhere, and that's great because I still have no idea what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I still don't know what they're trying to say with all this.
That's why I have hope for it. But it's a double-edged sword. I have hope for it. I hope it stays at an 8, maybe even goes up to a 9. But I can see how it goes down to a 6 or a 7, maybe even a 5 if it's really that bad. If they don't stick the landing, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, like I agree. And honestly, man, like from just from like my YouTube feed, just because I have been looking at Last of Us reviews, like I'm already seeing a lot of like non-professional journalists, and I'm not even talking about like angry right-wing shitheads, like people who just like stories.
Yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of them come out with video headlines like worst story ever, like worst ending. So yeah, I'm starting to really settle my expectations here. Yeah. But is there anything else you want to add in general? Or are we good here?
I'm good talking about The Last of Us. I think I've said all I can say, all I want to say.
I think I said all I can say about The Last of Us until we beat it. next week. Which, speaking of, we'll be back next week
Uh-huh.
to discuss The Last of Us. Full spoilers.
And it's in absolute entirety.
And it's absolute entirely. Future Ed, I really hope you enjoyed it.
Same to you, future Chris.
Other than
Hopefully you're not fuming at the ears and just want to break your PS4.
it can't
Please
be.
keep it until
can't-
you get to PS5, maybe even a little bit later.
Hey, remember, it can't be as bad as Mass Effect 3.
It definitely can't be as bad as Heavy Rain or anything else David Cage has done.
So that has been our special episode covering the Last of Us series. We are part of the Pop Counterculture Media family. That's Mandatory Cinema, where we talk about movies, arts and craft beer, where we interview people, and just talking shit with Angie and Ed. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, all major podcasting platforms, and YouTube as well, including all of our short films, including the movie Chris and I made, Unaired Pilot. Make sure to check out that baby.
But you got to look up specifically because I've looked up Unaired Pilot and I just keep getting Unaired Pilots for like How I Met Your Mother and Big
Oh,
Bang
really?
Theory. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. So look up Unaired Pilot movie or just look up Pop Counterculture Unaired Pilot.
There you go.
Yeah.
The links are on our Facebook. Oh, also, we are on Facebook and Instagram. So follow us and join us to be a part of the conversation. Let us know what you think of our shows, what we have to say, anything that is interesting or funny enough. We will definitely read on the air. Other than that, I've been Ed.
I'm Chris.
And you've been awesome. Thank you.
Take it easy, guys.
I'm odds and ends, but